Shalom, everyone. Shalom. How you guys doing? Praise Yah. How you guys doing? Shalom, Brother Brad. Shalom, Sister Paula. Shalom, shalom. Welcome, everybody, so far. Just so that way we can be consistent, we're going this early. There's no set time. So whenever we get on, we get on. Let's start. We're on Genesis chapter 10. Shalom, Brother Kevin. We're on Genesis chapter 10. We just finished discussing the covenant in Genesis chapter 9, the covenant that he made with Noah and his sons and their children after them, right? And then now it's about to go into their children. This is their children in whom the covenant was with them and their children. So the three sons of Noah are the progenitors of every single group of people that you see on this earth today. So this is why no matter how disconnected sin has made the nations, Yah has constantly attempted to redeem them. So he chose a righteous man, Abraham, and said, by your family, they will bless the nations or bless all the families of the earth. So we got to keep this in mind when we're looking at these genealogies. Keep the blessing of the families of the earth. Keep the covenant that he made with Noah and their children, which is all the families of the earth. Keep this in mind as we continue to go through the Torah, as we continue to go through history all the way to the time of the Israelites. All right. Shalom, Bob. Shalom, Sister Paula. I'm sorry to hear that. Praise Yah. Yah is good. Yah is absolutely good. All right. Genesis chapter 10. Let's get started. There's a few very interesting points about this genealogy that I want to point out because I don't want us to forget it as we go through the rest of the scriptures. There's many things, as we can see so far, even with the prophecy study that we did on the promised seed, there's many things that's kind of overlooked or overshadowed or just simply forgotten. Nobody is even thinking about them anymore. And that's a problem. Everything that Yah is telling us has to be consistent throughout the rest of the scriptures. Many people be like, from Genesis to Revelation, but it's very, scarce that you hear someone discussing the harmony between what's in Genesis and the rest of the scripture. So we want to make sure that we're bringing Genesis just as we bring Exodus and just as we bring Deuteronomy, that we're bringing Genesis and harmonizing everything in Genesis with the Torah. Shalom, shalom. Welcome everyone. We are on Genesis chapter 10, looking at verse 1 right now. Let me just show you what we were just talking about. In Genesis chapter 9, there was a covenant that Yah made with right here in verse 8. Elohim spoke to Noah and to his sons, right? I will establish my covenant with you. You is referring to Noah and his sons, and your children after you. Right? Yah will establish the covenant with Noah and his sons and with their children after them. Now, who is their children as we went in? Who is their children? It says here, these three sons of Noah, the whole earth was overspread from them. That means everybody that exists on the whole earth is whom Yah is trying to establish his covenant with them and with the seed after them. We see that? I hope that that sticks in our mind. So now, this is why there's an importance in why Yah is going through the genealogy of every son of Noah rather than just Shem. He is talking about the Hamites, the Shemites, and the Japhethites. All of them is who he is trying to establish a covenant with. All right. Shalom, shalom. No problem. No problem. Praise Yah for recording. So now when we get to Genesis chapter 10, it says, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons that were born to them after the flood. Well, and the sons and the children that were born to them after the flood. Now, Japheth, let's start with Japheth. I want you guys to remember these names. Gomer, look what it says. Magog, this is a very important name. You're going to hear this name in Ezekiel. Prophetically, you're going to hear this name in Revelation as well. Gog and Magog. Japheth, Japheth's children are the progenitors of those who are on the European region, from the coasts of Europe, Germany, all the way to Russia, and that coast as well. It says here, his son Gomer, right? Gomer has a son named Ashkenaz. Have you guys ever heard of Ashkenaz? Ashkenaz is literally the term that's named for the coast of Germany, Poland, in I believe it's Western Europe. I'm not too sure, but they refer to the Israelites. The Jewish people that's in Israel, the Israelis. They refer to them as Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenazi Jews, referring to their heritage from Germany and Poland and those areas. They name themselves Ashkenazi. Now, why would they name themselves Ashkenazi if they're not from Japheth? To me, it doesn't matter. All I know is that they identify as Ashkenazi. So it doesn't make sense to identify yourself as Shemitic if you're identifying yourself with the son of Japheth. As we continue, it says here, Riphath, Togarma, the sons of Havan, Elisha, Tarshish, this is one of their grandsons, great-grandsons, Kittim, Dadanim, right? And these were the isles of the nations divided in their lands. Isles not referring to necessarily islands, but referring to a land on the coast with water, right? This is like the European coast. Everyone after his tongue, after their families, right? After his tongue, their families and their nations. There was no colorism. We need to get that colorism out of here. There's no black, white, yellow, brown, none of that stuff. Everything was based off of language, heritage, family, and tribe. Never based off of color of the skin. Now we're on the sons of Ham. The sons of Ham, you have Cush. Cush are the progenitors of the people of Ethiopia. Mitzrayim, I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with Mitzrayim, or in other words, Egypt. Put is the progenitors of the people of the Philistines, and Canaan is one of the most popular Hamites. They kind of consumed, the Canaanites kind of divided into a lot of groups. The Hivites, the Jebusites, all of those, the Amorites, they were all Canaanites. They were not Egyptians. Most of them that's in the land of Africa, or what they call Africa, is referred to were of the land of Canaan. Not land of Canaan, are from the line of Canaan. Now, not the whole continent of Africa, but a large portion of it. We have Cush, we have Mitzrayim, we have Put, we have Canaan. The sons of Cush, it says Seba, Havilah. Havilah was one of the areas where one of the rivers that flowed out of the garden of Eden, was Havilah. And it says in Genesis that there was much gold there. So we go back to see where they're, when they robbed the continent Where was the most gold found? We'll probably be able to directly label it honestly. Sapta, Rama, Ra'ama, Sapteka, the sons of Ra'ama is Sheba, right? The sons. Sheba. Queen of Sheba, her name was not Sheba. Queen of Sheba means that she was the queen of the place called Sheba. Okay? Sheba was one of the sons of Cush, which is the progenitor of the children in Ethiopia. Now, Cush begot Nimrod, right? And he began to be a mighty one in the earth. I want you guys to see this because Nimrod was a man of renown. Remember the description that we see in Genesis 6? Nimrod was a man of renown. He was famous. He was mighty in the earth. Everybody knew him. He was famous for being a mighty hunter. Verse 9, he was a mighty hunter. And look what he says. Against Yahuwah, therefore, it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter against Yahuwah. Now, many people say, that means against means like in front of Yahuwah or in the presence of Yahuwah. Absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. It's very evident his pursuits was not what Yah wanted. So he was famous. This was a saying. Verse 9 is saying, therefore it was said, right? That means that many people knew him for going against Yah. Many people were understood that he was a mighty, famous hunter, renowned, strong, and he was known for going against Yah. So it says here, the beginning of his kingdom, not Yah's kingdom, was Babel. This is the Babylon that they try to. The Revelation Babylon is not attributed. Let me take this off because I want you guys to understand. Now we're getting the blood flowing a little bit. Babylon that Revelation discusses, where it talks about the wickedness of Babylon and things like along that, in that nature. It's not referring to the Nebuchadnezzar Babylon, even though there are like the Nebuchadnezzar Babylon area is the offspring of where Nimrod is, right? But so is Assyria. Assyria is the location where Babylon was. Assyria, Babylon, they both stem from Nimrod. So when you read in the book of Isaiah and you hear a lot about Assyria, Assyria is talking about the characteristics of Babylon. So you can attribute the statements that's made about Assyria to the Babylon in Revelation. You can attribute Babylon, the Nebuchadnezzar, to the Babylon in Revelation. But the original Babylon that it wants to emphasize on is coming from Genesis. Here's how you know why. The actual idea of Babylon in Genesis, when you look at Revelation, when you look at Revelation 18, it's talking about how the world can become one. From Genesis 13 and Genesis 18, there's this constant push to force the world to become one. Babylon fornicating with the kings of the earth, making the merchants rich, making the nations drunk. There's a push for everyone to become one. In Revelation 13, it says that the false prophet causes everybody to wander after the beast, so that way all the earth is deceived, all the earth is focused on the beast and worshiping the beast. And if you're not a part of it, then you will be killed. This is pointing us back to this Genesis chapter 10 and 11. This Nimrod, when we're looking at what we were talking about a couple weeks ago, the Yuletide beliefs, Thor, Apollos, Ra from Egypt, every false deity in regards to fertility, in regards to the sun, in regards to the son of the sun, literally starts here with Nimrod. Every aspect of paganism, Mithraism from the kingdom of Persia, Zeus, Jupiter from the Roman Empire, every single belief system, pagan belief system and celebration literally starts with this mighty man who was against Yahuwah from the beginning. All right, let's continue because now we're going to get a little bit about, we're going to hear a little bit about location. It says here, the beginning of the kingdom was Babel. So remember who's narrating. Moses is the one narrating. So he's telling them about locations that still currently at that time, during the time of Moses, where he is discussing this with the Israelites. So the Israelites could be well aware and knowledgeable about their history, not their history, but the history of Yah attempting to redeem man. Shalom, R&D. Shalom, Yah is my deliverer. Shalom. Hannah, praise Yah. Yes, Nimrod was a tyrant. So there's a lot of bit different soft versions of Nimrod. No, he was in front of Yah. He was against Yah, meaning like in the presence. No, he was standing in front, like standing in front of him. Like, I'm going against you. So his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad, right? And Calne in the land of Shinar. Shinar, the area of Shinar, is the area where Assyria and Babylon is. It says here, out of that land, oh, praise God, it says it right here. Out of that land he went forth to Assyria and built Nineveh, the city of Rehoboth, and Kalna. So this is very, very interesting. So he's basically showing you what Nimrod, or the areas in which Nimrod established, Assyria, things like that. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Oh yeah. No, absolutely not. Nimrod was definitely not the first sun deity. The statement that was made, it says, "Now I see what you mean about Jasher having a lot of misconceptions because it makes it seem as though Nimrod was a follower of Yah at one point." Now, the crazy thing is, everybody at one point had knowledge. It doesn't mean that they were a follower because they had knowledge. Their fathers was Shem, Ham, and Japheth. There was no other history besides the flood and those three sons. Nobody had that history. That's why this is why you hear people keep running their mouths about ancient stories about the flood and all of those things, and they're saying, "Oh, the Bible copied off of Gilgamesh, or the tablets over here and this book over there and this." No, the only story that exists was the flood. The only story that exists was the violence that was before the flood. The only stories that exist are the stories, the history that Noah and his sons told their children. Those children that rebelled are the ones that distorted the stories, which is why the same stories is in almost every nation, every pagan nation that exists. Every idolatrous nation that exists mimics the same stories that Shem, Japheth, and Ham and Noah would have told all of these children that formed all of these nations. So it's crazy, like the lack of calculation. Like, oh, no, look at all these nations that believe in the same, in the sun and all these, in the fertility and all these things. Who told them the stories of creation? Who told them the stories of the origin? It was the fathers of the people that created the population of the world. So yes, the same story will be all over the world. How does that not make sense? You see what I'm saying? But they don't do that. They just say, no, the Bible is newer. These stories are older. It's crazy. It's crazy. But as we see, he's breaking down the history of it. He's not just telling you about some sun god and fertility god. He's not just giving you, any story about Yah. He's literally telling you about human beings, nations that were built and currently exist during the time of Moses. Like, we literally have evidence of the existence of these cities: Shinar, Assyria, Nineveh. We literally have our archaeological evidence of all these cities. Rezin, right? Rezin is, I believe, is near Damascus. Between Nineveh and Calna is a great city. right? Revelation talks about that great city. Mitzrayim, which many people know as Egypt, begat Ladim, Anamim, Lahabim, Naphtahim, Pathruzim, and Kalsuhim. These are all, so like we said, put Pathruzim, uh, from whom came the Philistines. Now, these are all Hebrew names. These Hebrew names are not translated. That's why when you go through the names of genealogies, you're going to see a lot of transliteration, meaning that they're using the English alphabet to spell out how the Hebrew names sound. And so that's what we're reading right now. Canaan begot Sidon. Remember the Zidonians that worship Ashtoreth, say fertility god, which is Semiramis, Nimrod's wife. Canaan begot Zidon, his firstborn, and Het. Right? This is important too, because you're going to see the children of Het is who Abraham was dealing with. We're going to see that later. But you can see Abraham was dealing with the children of the Zidonians, which are the Canaanites. He was dealing with Het as a friend. Het was Abraham's friend. The Jebusite and the Amorite, right? These are all the lineages that came from Canaan and Zidon and Het. The Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Arkites, the Sinites, the Arvadites. These are the people, not that they exist at that time of Nimrod. I want you to realize that. He's bringing history to real life. Moses is showing them people that exist during his time, telling them that they come from Canaan and Zidon. You see? These are not children. The Jebusites did not live during this time. The Jebusites were during Abraham's time, and they were driven out of the land during Joshua's time. They did not exist during this time. Jebus was probably a little kid when Yah called Abraham. Abraham was dealing with Het. All of these nations here, the Girgashites, the Amorites, these are children of the Zidonians and the Canaanites, that lived during the time of Israel. So when they walked in the wilderness and they ran into these nations, they knew who their fathers was. They knew where they came from. This is something extremely interesting, because it was supposed to promote the desire to share the history, the desire to be a light to the nations, right? This was supposed to promote whoever had the truth to understand and display wisdom. Like, this is where we come from. You know what I mean? To every nation that existed, they were able to point back to their fathers and say, hey, we're all supposed to be together under the Elohim of Noah. You see what I'm saying? Yes, this would be the prequel. Absolutely. This is the prequel, and Moses is telling them, you see all of these Hivites, Argashites, Jebusites, and all these people, this is their fathers. Canaan and Sidon and Het are their fathers. You see what I'm saying? So they're not just getting a history of their own history, they're getting a world history. They're knowing who. It's a crazy concept to see that Yah was equipping Israel with the knowledge of every single nation that existed. You know why? Because the covenant was that they were supposed to bless the families of the earth. That's what Yah told Abraham his children were supposed to do. So Yah is giving them knowledge of all the families of the earth. Why? So they can be wise and show that they have that spirit of prophecy, that ability to know their history from the Most High, while they don't even know their history. So think about this. The Israelites were supposed to tell all the nations their history. Think about that, because you look about what's going on today, and you have everybody kind of like only telling about one son's history, Shem, the Shemites, right? But Yah is telling us about everybody's history so we can tell them about their history and be a light to the nations and bless all the families of the nations. All right, let's continue. It says here in verse 19, the border of the Canaanites was from Zidon all the way to Gaza, which is at the bottom of Canaan. If you look up a map of the land of Israel, the bottom of the land of Israel goes into Gaza. It says here, as you go towards Sodom and Gomorrah, which is below Hebron, to the east. So it's like southeast. You see Sodom and Gomorrah. You see Admah. So they still were able to see the ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah and all of those things. We can actually see the ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah also. Praise Yah, praise Yah, absolutely, absolutely. This is not just is not like Yah just saying, here's some information. No, he's just like, how are you going to tell the nations about who they are? How are you going to tell the nations why I want them, right? I want them because I made a promise to their fathers, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. And on top of that, I made a promise to their forefather, Noah, that I would that I would establish or try to establish a covenant with their children. Not with one son. Not with one son, with all of Noah's children. It's crazy that Yah would isolate one of Noah's son instead of blessing all of Noah's children. That's crazy. I wouldn't want Yah to do that to any of my children. He didn't even do that to Abraham's children. He blessed Ishmael, but the knowledge of who Isaac was, Ishmael had. So let's look at this. Verse 20. These are the sons of Ham now. Now it's going back to Ham. So no, I'm not. It's going back to Ham. It just finished. This is the conclusion. We're now concluding all of these children that we just spoke about are the children of Ham after their families, right? After their tongues, countries, and nations, not after their skin color. Because I'm guarantee all of them, most of them was like brown skin, especially the Hamites. But they were all different nations. They were all different nations. They were all different countries, different families. And we were supposed to bless the families of the earth. If we lose sight of that, you're not really fulfilling anything that Yah has. There's no Abrahamic covenant. You're not fulfilling anything that Yah wants to be done on this earth. Now Shem had sons. The father of all the children of Eber. This is where we get the word Abar. This is where we get the word crossover. This is where we get the word Passover. This is where we get the word Hebrew. Let me correlate there. I may be wrong about that Passover one. Right. H567 Eber, the name of the two patriarchs, comes from the word Abar, which means to go across, right? To go across. Let me see if the Briggs, the region beyond, to cross over to a region beyond, right? Let me just double check to see if Passover derives from that word. Yeah, so it says here, Pesach means to sorry guys, I just want to make sure I'm not saying it's limiting. No, so I take back what I just said about Abar. There's a correlation between hopping over, going over, and crossing over. So I'm not gonna. Oh, okay. So Abar. So crossing, not. So I got that wrong. The Red Sea crossing and the Jordan crossing. When Israel crossed the Red Sea, when Israel crossed the Jordan, and when Abraham crossed the Euphrates, the word Abar was used. Let me see if I can find that. That's right. So it says here, when your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time, he says, I took your father Abraham from the other side, right? You see right there, Abar. You see right there, Eber. Abraham was from the other side of the flood. He crossed over from the flood and went through the land of Canaan. Um, and then it continues to talk about Moses crossing over the Red Sea. And he was about to talk about how Israel was about to cross over the Jordan, right? So if you look at that, the word abar or Hebrew, or what people say Hebrew or Ibrahim, is referring to a crossing over, going from old to new, going from dark to light, going from idolatry to righteousness. You know, that's what the word is for. So many people are using it just as strictly as a genealogy. Like, okay, this is Eber. Everybody who's from Eber is a Hebrew. No, I noticed that people don't really focus on the bloodline of Eber, because Yah cut off Abraham from that line when he told him, separate from your father's house. You guys remember? When he told Abraham to separate from your father's house, he cut him off from the line of Eber. Everybody that was before Terah, Yah disconnected Abraham, but he used the name of Eber and gave it to Abraham. But only Abraham, not everybody else that was from his line. Remember, Eber has so many people. The Edomites, the so many people is in the line of Eber. Ishmaelites, the Midianites, but they are not called Hebrews, even though they're from Eber. So genealogy does not mean that you have the name Hebrew. The word Hebrew or the name Hebrew was only given to Abraham, as we read in Joshua chapter 24, for that very reason, because he crossed over the flood, and flood referring to the river. So anyway, Shem was the father of all the children of Eber, or all the children of the Hebrews, the brother of Japheth, the elder, right? Even to him were children born. The children of Shem was Elam. There was a mountain in the land of Canaan called Elam. Asher. Asher is actually where the children of the Assyrians come from. This is where the Assyrians come from. Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram, right? Aram is what people call Syria. So I'm not sure why they translated the scriptures as Syria. It should be Aramean or Aramite or something along those lines. But Aram, the nation Syria, they lived right next to the Canaanites. Nahum, if you know Naaman was a Syrian. He was from the Syria, the Syrian army. So these are all Shemites, guys. Sennacherib from Assyria, he's a Shemite. All of those people, those five kings that was fighting Sodom and Gomorrah, that was on the top, that they kidnapped Lot. They were all Shemites. Abraham killed all five of those kings, and all of those kings were Shemites. We're trying to. I want to show Abraham was united with Hamites to kill five Shemite kings. Is real when you start from the beginning of history. It's very hard to keep on thinking that Yah is going to now focus on one type of family, right? Yah wanted to bless these people. I'm not taking away. Yah wants to bless these families, but it has to be according to righteousness. It is the only way to be blessed is according to righteousness. So the Shemites, the Assyrian nation that took the northern tribe into captivity, Babylon even stems from here. Nebuchadnezzar is a Shemite. These people, they lived in Mesopotamia. They lived in ancient Mesopotamia, the north of where Israel is. That's why they call him the king of the north, because he was right north of where Canaan was. So it says here the children of Aram, right? Uz. This is where Abraham was from. Abraham is from the land of Uz. I believe it's Uz. Is it Uz or Let me clarify that. Never mind. Of the Chaldees. You know the Chaldees are Babylonians. We're gonna get to that next time. Right? So Aramian is Uz. Uz is where Job is from. I'm sorry. Job is from Uz, right? Let me see. Yeah, the land of Uz. So, yeah, this is all out of three sons. It said, weren't the Shemites the first ones to fall away from Yah? No, not necessarily, because remember, Ham was the first one, like the actual progenitor. Ham was the first one to teach his son Canaan, that type of disrespect. It doesn't mean that Ham never repented. It just means that this is how his mindset was. We don't know if he repented or not, but we just know that Ham is the one that went into his father's tent, saw him naked, and instead of showing respect, he showed disrespect, dishonor, and that's how Canaan began to. I'm not necessarily sure if it was Canaan himself, but Canaan's children became rebellious against Yah, as you can see with Nimrod. Let's look at this. Amram, Uz, this is where Job lived. Hul, Gether, Mash. Arphaxad begot Salah. Salah begot Eber. See, it goes back and then starts from the beginning. It goes back. So we saw Eber up here, but that was just that was just Moses telling them that Shem is the father of the Hebrews, right? Then we go back and we start to go down the line. Aram, Uz, Salah, Eber. Eber had two sons. Those sons were Peleg, and it says here, in his days was the earth divided. Now, many people have different ideas about it. I don't have any particular idea. To me, either way, it works for me. It says, in his days was the earth divided. Now, many people think it's about to go into, the Tower of Babel and the division that came with the language division. But some people believe that historically there was an earthquake that divided the earth. To me, I don't really care, because if the earthquake divided the earth and then the nation separated, I don't have that whole story in anything. But I do have a division that occurred during the Tower of Babel, where he divided the languages, and the earth was divided, or the people of the earth was divided. But I don't mind. I don't either way. I'm fine. If both of them are true, that's fine. So it says here, Hadoram, Uzal, Dekal, Obal, Abimael, Sheba. Remember, we went back to Sheba. Ophir, Havilah. Now look at this. Jobab. All these were the sons of Yoktan. And their dwelling was from Mesha, as goes up to Safar, a mountain of the east. These are the sons of Shem after their families. right? After their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. And these are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations in their nations. And by these, look at this, by these the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So when we're looking up here, it says here, for in his days the earth was divided, saying in the days of Peleg, all the nations divided on the earth after the flood. But when did they divide? Well, because in Genesis 11, it goes back to tell you about how the whole earth was together. So this is how the division of the earth starts. This is consistent with reading through Genesis 10 and 11. You see the statement, divided the earth. You see the statement about the families being different, and that's what divided the earth. Look, after their tongues. Remember, they didn't have different tongues yet. Moses is basically explaining to them that these families are divided after their tongue. And now Moses is about to explain to the Israelites how was this family divided if they were one. And so we go into the division of the tribes of the earth, the families of the earth, from the Tower of Babel because of their wickedness, not because of. I don't believe it's because of earthquake, even though earthquakes probably happen. I believe it's because of this division that we're about to read about here. So, with that being said, I want to give you guys a double header tonight. We're gonna pause. We're gonna come back in 10 minutes, and we are going to read Genesis chapter 11. This will give us room for the next study that may happen this week to go over the prophecy of the promised seed, part 2. So there's so much to talk about. I'm trying to control my anxiety because I want to like do everything, but I don't have the time. So please like, share, subscribe, share these Genesis studies so that way people can get more in depth into what it says, simplify the understanding so that way we could teach our children the simple understanding of where these things are, where these things go, and the harmony between Genesis and everything else. Every prophecy, every command, every desire of Yah literally stems from Genesis. So it's like I don't understand how people are so far removed from not only the prophecies of Genesis, the covenants of Genesis. Like everybody's on Abraham. Abraham got it from Noah and his children. You know what I mean? So we know that the covenant was with Noah and his children were all the families of the earth. When they rebelled against Yah, including the Shemites, Yah separated Abraham and said that his family would become a nation that will shine their light and bless the rest of the families of the earth. You see, Yah is still thinking about all the families of the earth. He wants to use Abraham to go back and redeem and get those people. And get those people and bring them back to the covenant that he originally gave to them. You see? So by the time we get to Exodus and we start seeing about the covenant with Israel, we're going to see like this covenant was here before. This covenant was here before. This is not something new. Like Solomon says, nothing new under the sun. But people are teaching that there is a brand new covenant every 100 years. This is not so. So I pray that this was enlightening and help us to kind of be patient when it comes to the names that's being, the genealogies that we see in here. And when we get to Numbers, I guarantee you guys will be kind of like interested in it. You know what I mean? So praise Yah. We're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and we're going to do Genesis chapter 11. All right. Share it now. Let them know we're about to come back because I don't go ahead of you guys, but I'm pretty sure the next one is going to have some information, interesting information. So praise Yah. Shalom, brothers and sisters.